Well, thank you all for coming. I'm Vince Martino, and now I'm going to be doing what I really like to do, is teach. And playing is sort of like going bowling for me. You know, I like doing it. It's fun. I don't care if I win. I don't care if I lose. It's all right. I enjoy doing it. I'm going to start out just by playing something. Okay. Now, how many people recognize that? Good. It's because I've never played that before. And it's never been heard before. I've never thought about it. I didn't pre-think what I was going to do. I didn't worry about what I had just done. And that's a really important part. So really, I was working on a bunch of things. I love to practice. You know, and practicing is really the key to everything. And what was I practicing, though? You know, what would you say was the element that I was practicing? Somebody? Mm-hmm. Dynamics? No, that's not an element of music. Yeah.
Sound?
No. Hmm? Odd intervals? No. No. Phrasing is close. Phrasing is close. Begins with E. Expression. Okay. Hopefully, I've captured your interest when I was playing. You had to use all your human knowledge to capture what I was doing. It wasn't Tomasi. Oh, I know what Tomasi sounds like. I don't like that Tomasi. Well, I don't like that Haydn. That's the kiss of death for your improvement. If you find things you don't like, dismiss those things and find things you do like about what you hear. And it draws you into music. Hopefully, I had you come in this way towards me to try to become part of what I was doing. That's what I want. I want people to tune in and to listen, just listen, to give me a chance to be expressive. Now, of course, the most important thing is, do we practice expression? And most of the time, you know, you hear people practice and they go, and I guess that's expressive in a very small way. It represents a style, possibly, but I don't think it sounded very unique. Now, most of you are here. Now, in an orchestra, you know, sometimes people are trying to tell you what to do, and that's one of the reasons I don't play in an orchestra, because what happens if you don't play very well? Well, if you don't play very well, usually you get a baton. And then people teach you how to move the stick, and then you know, or they make you a percussionist, right? Oh, I didn't say that. And they give you 2 sticks, and then if you don't do well at that, they take one away again and they make you a conductor again. So basically, you know, it seems that way sometimes. And that's a joke, really, because there's lots of fine conductors. But the point is to be being told how to play things and when to play and when not to play is really kind of subjective. And playing, the type of thing that you're doing mostly here is you're competing as a solo person, you're competing as an ensemble, you're trying to come to some way to do what hopefully I've done a little bit of, is to be expressive and have people come into your world and to feel like what you're doing is absolutely spectacular. Yeah. So what are some of the elements of expression that make people, y'all can come on in, don't stay out there. There's lots of empty seats. Don't feel like you got to stay in there. We'll even let the duck in. He can come in. Quack, Eric. Yeah. He's one of my students. That's his real name is Eric Millard, but I call him the duck. Not to say anything about his playing or anything, but it's the expression. You develop your own vernacular when you practice, you know, and hopefully you have good models to start with. I don't think it's really good to be so unique that nobody understands what you're doing. You know, when you're playing the Hummel concerto, if it doesn't sound like it's in the right period or, you know, in the right style or the right dynamic and all those things. But it's more of a general thing than that. It's expression within the style of music you're playing and then developing a unique voice within that. Well, that's a lot of special talent, a lot of detail, a lot of practice. So what's the very first thing we do? The very first two things, there are only two things that are really important in practicing. One of them is when you came in the room, and also when I first started playing, you hopefully became very curious about what you were going to hear, or even when I was warming up, saying, well, what is he doing? What is that? I was trying out this new mouthpiece because I like the sound of it. It's actually not a new mouthpiece, it's plated now instead of being get brass poisoning or something. Yeah, so I wanted to make sure it was the sound. I tried it out a little bit, make sure I could get a good attacks on it and things and not miss too many notes. And being expressive, you know, you were listening and you were curious. What are we going to do during this next hour? Okay? That's the most important and primary thing that you need to experience as a practice person. You have to want to change and be better. If you're not interested in changing, don't take lessons. You won't have a good time and your teacher will have a horrible time. You know? And when I taught at University of Kentucky on a regular basis, I didn't teach any first-year students at all. Not because I didn't want to, but because I felt like it was unfair to choose one student over another student and say, well, you're going to study with me and you're not. And I don't know them. I don't even know any of them, you know, really, except to hear their audition and think they sound good. So, but I taught a freshman trumpet class, which I'm doing this semester. I teach a freshman trumpet class at UK once again. I feel like I'm starting all over again. Back at the same, almost one office off from where I started 40 years ago. But I teach the freshman class at 7:30, and we do warm-up class together. We work together for about 20 minutes, and then I just hear the students play their materials. So every week, I can see how people prepare, how much they want to get better, how much time they put into it. And then at the end of the year, if I was going to be there next year, which hopefully there'll be a brand new trumpet teacher at University of Kentucky next year, hopefully somebody young and exciting. And if I was going to be there next year, at the end of the year, their list would go up. And on this list would be the names of the students that would be studying with me next year, of which there would be some that wouldn't be. And those are the people who don't need a teacher, don't want to practice, don't want to change, and based on their habits, based on how they responded to the weekly contact and what they did from week to week. So the students that want to take trumpet as a class that they have to pass and have to get a grade in to get their degree, that's fine with me, as long as I don't have to teach them, because we would have a bad experience. They would have a bad experience, and so would I. So basically, the discipline part, the training, is very important. That is the second element. That's the second element of practicing. Discipline, self-discipline, and being willing to change. You know, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting it to change or to be better. In our case, expecting it to change. How many people have you heard? And you come back and in 2 weeks they're going. I can't understand that, because I know they're studying with really good teachers, so there's an element here that has to change in our habits, our daily habits. If your teacher tells you to practice softly, and you can get better. Some teachers say play loud or loudly, and they get better. Some people say never play fast, and the students get better. Some people say never play slow, and the students get better. So what is it that makes the students better? See, all these different techniques, it's what the student does from the time they take their lesson until the time they take their next lesson. So practicing is something really, really important. It's a life-changing thing every day. It's not repetition. It's not doing what your teacher told you to do. It's using that information to take a trip. And every week, the telephone rings on my porch, and I go, hey, what's up? Oh, man, this week I did this, and I did this, and it wasn't working, and this is what I tried, and this is what happened, and blah, blah, blah. I said, oh, great, that's great. Let's work on it. But the students that just come in and just sort of do the things you tell them to do and hope that it's going to get better, you don't get better a lot of times. So you have to be fearless as a practice person. You have to have no fear of failure, okay? When I first started practicing at Eastman, I was definitely afraid of failure. I never wanted to sound bad, so I could play a few things that sounded pretty good, So I'd play those things every day. And then, of course, I'd get in an ensemble, and I couldn't play anything. I couldn't play an attack. I couldn't hold one note out the right way. I couldn't play in tune. I couldn't do anything. So we have to be willing to change. You have to have curiosity and self-discipline. Those are the two most important elements that you need to practice. And one of the, I'm going to read you a short list of things that we all need to do in terms of be good practice people and good musicians as well. But does anybody have any questions about that? I mean, it's pretty cut and dry, isn't it, as far as that part of it goes. Now, expression. So what are we actually trying to do when we practice? I heard a really good statement. I was actually played in my very first master class less than 15 years ago. I'd never played in a master class in my life. And Timofey Dockschutzer said, oh, I've got these new etudes. Will you demonstrate these etudes? Oh, yeah, I'd love to do it. Yeah, it'd be great. Oops. Uh-oh. Bad boy phone went off. Okay, off. I said, oh, yeah, I'd love to play your etudes. That's great. So about a half hour later, I'm going, I've never played in a master class before. I started to get really nervous about it because, I just never thought about it, in a master class. And I learned the most important thing, and I've just been sort of I call it a dirt bomb guy. I just go from week to week. I've never really had a teacher. And, I just like to practice and try to get better. I'm not afraid to fail, obviously. So, he gave this etude, and he said, well, pick any one of these etudes out, and then just, play it in the class, and then I'll talk about it. Okay. So now, I was completely freaked out, honestly, because I just never thought about playing with the class. So I get into the class, and the first person goes up there. Oh, man, he was like, hey. I said, oh, my God, that was horrible. I'm next. So I got up there, and the etude, it was really funny. It was I don't remember the etude, but I'll try to play something like it. It was just a bunch of sequences like that. And I have a picture of this that I have in plastic. And he had a translator there, And he has his hand here. And he says, this is good practicing. He said, you can never practice music without practicing technique. You can never practice technique without practicing music. So when we're practicing, We have to be practicing expression. Even if you're playing the most tough thing that you're trying to improve on technically, physically, you know what I mean? And that goes along with just about what any teacher says. You know, some people say, you know, talk about the sound, and some people are talking about the technique, the fingers. Those things are all right. But I think they're part of this bigger picture. So you don't lose sight when you're practicing. I mean, I used to practice, you know, like, gee, this is so hard. And I was going around in circles because I practiced so much and I didn't do anything. I'd start sounding the same, you know, or have the same problems. So you got to kind of always step back from it and listen. Today we're really lucky. You have so many wonderful devices like recorders, video recorders, sound recorders, the telephone, right? Nobody, you know, have you taped yourself this week? No, I didn't have time. What do you mean you didn't have time? You have a phone, don't you? Oh, yeah, I do. How many pictures did you take this week? Oh, I took a lot of pictures. I send them to every place in the world, all my friends. I said, well, did you listen to the way you played? Did you record yourself? Oh, I didn't have time. You know what I'm saying. Not everybody's like that, but it's kind of true, you know. We don't think about how much technology and how much assistance you have even in the practice room. If you're practicing something that's supposed to be in time, and even if you put the metronome on, even if you use a metronome, which I do, you put the metronome on and you play it, then you listen to your phone if it doesn't have video, or you look at the video. You'd be surprised what you see when you watch the video. I watched a video of myself the other day. This corner was doing funny things. I said, when did that start? What was that all about? So I started to do that, and I noticed one day that when I was tonguing, I saw little motions. I said, well, how come there's no motions when I play a long tone? All right, see what I mean? Little things. Now it's not sounding bad, I don't think, but why start the swerving car? You know, it's just better to stay down the middle, keep it going, change things. Don't be afraid to change. Anybody have any questions about any of that so far? That I want to. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Those things you were just talking about, like the motion in the corner doing funny things. I have some similar problems. How did you go about fixing
the motion in the corners? How did I go about fixing the motion that I was having? Well, one of the things to remember is this is a mechanical device. This is not a musical instrument. This doesn't work by thinking beautiful things. You know, some people think it does, but that's absolutely untrue. This is mechanical. You don't expect your car to run without gas. Man, I got this great car, but if it has no gas, it's not a very good car, you know. So basically, the things that happen pre-trumpet make the trumpet work. So what's happening with your body, understanding, and I mean every teacher, every book talks about the air, you know. Now one of the things about the air that's really interesting is how do people describe the air? Let's look at the books. Let's not talk about the people who are teaching today like me, okay? Let's talk about the traditional books. What do they call the air? They have words for it. They call it the air stream. That goes this way. That's a good one. I like stream. Why do they use that word? Flow, air flow. That's another one. Air column. Okay, all of those things look like this pen. So you put that in there, and you put that in there, and all of a sudden, the air starts moving towards the instrument. You don't hear them call it the air cave, do you? You ever heard that? Air ball. That's what we do when we miss notes. We don't want to do air balls, and we don't want an air ball in your mouth. Okay? If you have an air ball in your mouth and all of your air is flowing into your mouth, how do you know that it's going to go into this little hole here? You don't. Then you play with great hope. And trust me, I was a real hoper for a long time. You know, when people would say, open up, play, you know, and then I couldn't move, I couldn't lip slur. It bummed me out. I said, well, I get a great sound though, but I couldn't do it. So I started to think about what I needed to do. So getting the air to move directly towards the trumpet. How many parts of your tongue are there? This is important because it's one of the biggest problems in playing trumpet. The tongue actually has 4 parts. Okay, what are the 4 parts? Let's start at the front. Everybody know. You can do this. This is easy. What do you do with this part of your tongue? Never say ta 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 or ta ta ta. Why don't we ever say that?
Air doesn't move in that formation.
Somebody taught us that in the 1860s and 70s. Who taught us that? Duh. Everybody uses that book, right? But you have to realize that book is not in English. It's in French. So when you talk about tonguing, you say, I'm French, so I'm going to move away from here so I don't spit on you. Okay? Do you hear the air? That's what he was talking about. He was describing the sound of the air, not the tongue. He was not talking about, you can go, I'm doing do now. It still sounds like tu. But I'm not changing what hits my hand. How about this? Ka. Nothing comes out. Now, I practiced double tonguing like that for about 10 years. And I couldn't double tongue above the staff. It was sad. I practiced hard. I was going, taka. My eyes were popping out, I was pressing the mouthpiece this way because there was no air coming out. It was all, and then people always say, loosen up, don't be so tight. How do you do that? You can't do that. You have no control of those muscles. You have to find a way to create a mechanic, a machine that delivers the air directly towards the instrument. Air never goes, this is my brother, watch this. This is going to be great. No, it's worse, it's Mark Wood. Okay, everybody knows him, what the problem is there. Okay, the air, okay, what's important about the air? It has to go directly towards the instrument. So we have to create a mechanism that delivers this air. Everybody whistle, ready? Now whistle like this. Ooh, ooh. Yeah, you can't do anything. You're gonna be able to hum, and that's it. Because the air is excited to go through this little hole here. And the air comes out. If you're doing anything with your tonguing and air's not coming out, don't do that anymore. There's no reason to do it. Right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. This is a mechanical device. This is a musical instrument. That's where the expression connection comes. If this isn't saying what this is saying, it's very frustrating, isn't it? Yeah. So basically, you're trying to, the 4 parts of the tongue, we have the front, that's the T. How about the second part of the tongue? Second part of the tongue is actually right here. What's that? You guys are scared. This is terrible. You can't be scared. What? This is the tip. What's this? Well, I got the right idea. It's used for articulation. What articulation? Remember Mr. Arvin? He doesn't say ka. He says your K is actually before the middle of your tongue. Don't believe what I say. Go home and try it. Try to change your evil ways. I had to. Okay? So the K is actually here. It's right somewhere where that ridge is. So you practice. So I'm practicing like, oh boy. Another way to practice is go. I learned that from one of my first students, Rich Illman. I saw him do this thing, and I went, why didn't I ever think of that? That's really good. So you don't go tucka, tucka, tucka. And you hear the air. So the second part of your tongue is the K. That's somewhere in there. Don't worry about where it is. Just have an idea of basically the general area. Then what's the next part of the tongue? Which? The rudder? Okay, you can call it the rudder. That's okay. What do we normally, the lip slur kind of deal, right? Yeah. So basically the middle of the tongue is used to do the air thing. Now, one of the things about the middle of the tongue, and this might come into the question thing, what do you do if the air is moving too slow for the tongue, the rudder, to do anything? Squeeze the lips. That'll fix it. Just squeeze your lips. That'll fix it. Tongue harder. Squeeze it. No, squeeze and tongue. That'll do it. Yeah, you see what I mean? If the air's not right, if the air's not coming up and through your mouth, remember, not into your mouth, through your mouth, you can't do much about it. So you have to come up with a control thing. There's a lick, right, in the Jolivet concertino, right? I'm going to do it on B flat because I don't know the fingerings. And you can practice. Jim Ackley has a new book out, and he uses a technique that I've used for years, and it's flutter tonguing. If you try that. It's using the Jolivet, and how many times, half of the time you hear people play that, they leave it out. Well, I can't do that. It's hard, too hard. Yeah, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Remember that. Vince is not the brightest light on the block. Trust me. I'm like on dim, all right? I mean dim, okay? So I have to really concentrate to learn these things. There's a lot more quick people out there, and I teach a lot of these people. It's so exciting to teach people, and to try to have people figure out what they're doing. It's not analysis is paralysis. That's not true. You have to step back from yourself, and you never be upset about what you're doing. If you get all flustered and because it's you, well, maybe that's true. Analysis will be paralysis. Okay? And then the middle of the tongue is used to do those things, just to move around, to help us. But if the basic airflow, you ever notice I'm going to have some of you play here, but you ever notice, you can run the clinic, like these endings, you can change the endings of movies and stuff. Well, if you want me to start teaching people, just start raising your hands. We're tired of what you're saying. Okay? There's a basic flow for every one of these brass instruments. Now, I don't know what it is. I don't need to know. I don't need to know that much. But I do know that this size tube develops needs a certain type of air to operate in the safety zone. If you're playing with the air of a trombone, let's say, if that's all so open that the air is moving so slow, what's going to happen to the middle of your tongue, the rudder? I mean, it's going to hit the roof of your mouth while you're playing C in the staff. And then you're going to do what for the rest? Squeeze your lips, press the horn. Yeah, and that's what's going to happen. So we have to try to take care of it. And one of the ways I take care of that is actually I play on the lead pipe a lot. And not a lot, maybe 3 or 4 times a week for me is enough. See, I'm going to say the dreaded C word, compression. People don't like that word. They think it means tightness. Compression does not mean tightness. It means that you're buoying up this air. You're getting it excited enough to work this machine. That's all it means. It doesn't mean tight. Tight is when you go like that and you don't let the air come out. Okay? So basically, I think the lead pipe is a really good thing. Some people play like in the staff, like most Adam students, right? They started the F. Yeah. See now, why do they use F? You can play E. You can go. They don't use that note because you can't connect to the other one as easily. You can get more air in the horn that way. You can just blow it out, and you can't play any notes. But say if you can play this note. Now, if you could play those 3 notes just like that, how much of the music that you have to play during the day could you not play? Maybe 4 or 5%, maybe. So it wouldn't be bad to start. I start playing especially when my lip feels a little funny, like because I overplayed too much, or had to play too much the day before. I start like this. The trumpet doesn't care how your lip feels. It doesn't know how your lip feels. You're the only one who knows, oh, my lip feels so bad. What does that usually do for you? It brings you into the downward spiral, doesn't it? I don't know if I'll be able to play the high C, in the high C sharp in the Shanes. I'm not going to get it. I don't think I'm going to get it. I didn't get it. Yeah. Okay, you see what I'm talking about here? You have to take your mind, you have to get your mind on the basic fundamental mechanical principles. Trumpet is mechanical, it's not musical. You're musical, and you bring into this inanimate object a reflection of that musicality. That's all you're doing. You're making it match up, and that's what makes me feel good, is when I'm playing what I want to play, not what this wants to play, which is nothing. You know? So I make that sound. You notice I didn't use my tongue? Tonguing is not a necessary operation to make tone. What does tonguing do? Tonguing gives a definite beginning to a note. So does air, but tonguing is more accepted by music than air attacks are, so we use our tongue. And we coordinate that, and maybe we do it in time, almost like marching. Metronomic, we coordinate these activities. Tempo is the key to everything that you do. Everything is done in tempo. I mean, I remember when I was playing with Lionel Hampton's band, and I was 18, I'd never taken a lesson, and he used to hold notes on the end of tunes till you died. And you just go, oh my God, now we have to play Ham's Boogie, and it was like a million high E flats. And I was already dead. I mean, I was just completely shot. So my chops would feel worse every day. So I decided I was going to take a lesson with Carmine Caruso, and I went to Carmine Caruso, and I met this guy, and he was a real trip, really interesting fellow. And I told him what his problem was, and he just said, well, look, you've got to just do the same thing every time you play. Don't worry about how you feel, just get right into the mode of operation. If you take the same breath, like if I do this, when I do this lead pipe exercise, see, it energizes my air, my lips, and everything. And of course, you don't want it to sound, you have to get the right sound. You can't go. You should try for like F concert. It's almost an F concert. Almost even the reverse lead pipe horns are F concert. I've tried almost every horn just so I'd know that I wasn't telling somebody a bad thing, So I do that, and another thing I do also is I don't hold the horn tight. I don't grab the horn really much. So I'm trying to get the air to work. This is the middle range. This F is the middle range of your trumpet. Oh, this guy's really weird. He is really a strange guy. Okay? No. Think about it. If you centered your air and you learned how to play the low notes with the right air of this range, you'd be able to come right back up, right? Here's an exercise I'll show you an exercise. Okay. Professor Wing, can you assist me in this? You don't have to play. Unless you want to. No, nothing, no horn. You're going to be my technical assistant. Okay, now I've played the lead pipe a few times, right? This is like if I was going to warm up, And you can try doing this. Don't be afraid to try this. You know, not everybody has to start in the first G in the staff. You don't have to do that. Okay, now I'm going to play a G on top of the staff, and then whenever you like, I want you to tap on my shoulder, and I'm going to touch the next harmonic, okay? And then the next thing he's going to do is he's going to do the same thing again, and I'm going to start on C and go to G, and then I'm going to start on G and go to G, then I'm going to start on low C and go to G, and hopefully it'll all work. Okay, you ready? So I'm going to give you a chance to get the note now. Don't be too tricky. See, so I've never left the G. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Perfect assistant. Yeah. So basically, you see the way I'm approaching the trumpet? I have a norm. I have a norm. I take a breath, I play the norm. Now, if you have a norm, what can you do from mathematics? You can something from the norm. I love math. Deviate from the norm. Yes, you deviate from the norm without losing the norm. When you lose the norm, you've started the vicious skidding process. It's not if you're going to crash, it's when you're going to crash. See? So you have to stay balanced. You have to stay in this controlled position. Now, if you take the same type breath, and everybody works on breathing exercises. Everybody, we're all experts at breathing because we've done it since we were born. So it's not necessary to get too crazy about this that, you know, you're going to go take so much breath that you're going to get dizzy and stuff. No, you work with your teacher. They know how much breath you should take, you know, and give you a really good idea of the breathing. I do all kinds of little different exercises. They're all good, okay? You take your breath, you blow out. You're blowing out the same intensity. Now I don't want you to believe anything I say. I want you to think about it. I want you to file it away. I can't tell you how many people come up to me and says, you know, 20 years ago you told me this thing. And I'm going, I did. You know, I don't remember. And you know what? That was the best thing I ever heard in my life. And I only started doing that like in the last year. And I just realized what you had said, you know, and it made sense to me. And that's really exciting for me. You know what I mean? But I want you to file these things away. Put them in perspective with your teacher. Do believe your teacher. Subject yourself to what they tell you. Try it. Give it a shot. Do not be afraid. That's why we go to teachers, isn't it? You shouldn't go to teachers to get reinforced that you're good. You should go to teachers for advice and help. Teachers are catalysts. They're not practicing. They should be catalytic in your improvement. They should be changing the speed at which you improve. You know, if you found this on a street, you pick it up, you know, and you go, not much. Oh, wow. See what I mean? It won't come with instructions. You don't need instructions how to play this. I mean, look at it. I mean, the thing is like from the Stone Age. Eventually, you'd figure out how to make a noise on the thing. See what I mean? Don't lose that. That is so important. And I can tell some people are thinking, yeah, I've sort of gotten off from this. I got to get simpler. You know what I mean? Yeah, you do. So basically, this norm thing is really important. Now let's talk about that lead pipe thing again, because it's really important. How many people have the horns out? Okay, well, you got the bad horn. You can't play. Anybody have like a B flat? Pick up a couple of B flats and let's play G on top of the staff. Just take your tuning slide out, okay? And this is, if it's your first note, great, because maybe you'll feel differently than you have and maybe it'll be better. Okay? Here we go. I'm going to count. We're going to hold this note. I want you to experience this. I'm not going to give you any instructions. You don't need instructions. All you need is to blow. And hold out. See what I just tried to do? What did I do? I tried to let the spit out of my horn. See, I told you I wasn't the brightest light on the block. Okay, I'm ready now. I emptied the spit. Here we go. So now, what I want you to do is we're going to play this G. Now, I don't want you to play G in a flat position. I don't want you to play it in a sharp position. I want you to match this pitch. It's very important because I'm going to give you a norm, and I want you to use that norm. I don't want you to have your own norm. I'm going to be a bad teacher and tell you you must do like I tell you. Okay, which I don't ever say very much, but in this case I will. Now I'm going to play the note, and then I'm going to stop, and I want you all to play for 30 seconds. So you making some decisions already? You thinking about your breath? All of you are highly experienced trumpet people. Make good choices before you play. You don't want to be the Wile E. Coyote of trumpet, do you? What does he do? He leaps before he looks, right? He ends up where? Oh no. Oh. In a little puff of smoke after he's fallen 500 feet into the, yeah, because he made a decision and then he had to live with it because he was already over the cliff. Make your decisions before you blow, before you breathe. Practice half as much. Consider what you want to do the other half. Don't just play all the time. You can't think when you're playing until you've given it some consideration. Sing F concert. Great. Good place to start. Who sang the high one? Correct. Oh, that Greg. I should have known it was you. Yeah, Greg's great. Yeah, because it's the right range. See, most people go, do. Now that's the trombone note, isn't it? Yeah, that's the trombone note. You'd be great trombone players, all of you. Yeah. Ooh, doo. Arbin. Okay, here we go. Ready? Okay, that was 25 for me. I didn't take a very big breath. So if I do that, but now, geez, what have we experienced? Actually, we've experienced all you have to know about playing all day. That's all you have to know. Isn't it great? Why do we know it's easy to play? Because Vince can do it. If Vince can do it, anyone can do it. Okay, that's the case. That's true. So how did you feel doing that? Now, some of you, your teachers will tell you why you might not have done that correct, but I believe that almost every one of you did it pretty correctly. What happens, support, let's talk about support because that is really an essential part of being successful with this. Remember what I said? You have to give this the same information all the time, right? So what happens if every time you blow, the support changes? What have you done to your norm? You've destroyed it. Yeah, you've destroyed it. So in other words, if you're maintaining your norm by changing, squeezing your lips more, blowing harder, real hard, it's going to be bad. Now, everybody should have felt like you were supporting more each second that you were playing, right? Because you weren't thinking about playing any notes. You were just thinking about playing this stupid lead pipe. Yeah. See, this is like a little game. And you play that lead pipe, support is a, what do they call that, the reverse thing? That when one thing increases, the other one decreases? Or vice versa? What? Inverse proportion. That's it, yes. Okay, so as the length of the note, this one note, continues, your support is more. I don't want you to believe me. I just want you to think about it. All right? Yeah.
Do you ever think about it as distance you travel?
That's for higher and lower notes for me. For higher and lower notes, you have the same time to travel a greater distance. So I really start to move the air. I think of it that way, okay? But let's talk about this now, because this is the key. Now, if the air is entering your mouth, or going through your mouth, right? This oral cavity, and it starts at the same insistence, what are your chances of playing all the other notes accurately? Good. Because then every time you put your tongue in the same position, high or low, the same note's going to come out. The P word, practice, comes into hand. But what happens if every time you move, how many people have done this? You play a passage, then it's time. I just did the same thing. I missed the high C. What happened? Well, what could have caused it? The air was different. You did the same tongue motion, and you got a B flat, right? Yeah, oh, that's depressing. Trust me, I know. I still make these mistakes, but it's not for lack of trying. You know, you've got to stay on this. That's what we practice. We practice exercises from a technical standpoint. We practice emotional exercises, hopefully. Okay? So basically, if I put my foot here, right, and somebody says, move your foot a foot. That might be close. Maybe it's too much. Okay? And I move your foot a foot and a half. Move it back 6 inches. Move it a foot. That's all I can do. Okay? Move it back another foot. Okay, that's pretty simple to do, isn't it? That's because this foot stayed in the same place. Okay, now we'll do it. Move a foot, right? Move a foot and a half. Move a foot and a half back. Oh my God. I couldn't play it. I couldn't do it. See what I'm saying? So what goes through your mouth from the fourth part of the tongue is the gate part. The tongue is a gate that's sideways. Okay? It has one of those posts in it that keeps the gate in the same place. This part doesn't change. It's not involved in trumpet playing. Okay? When you do the K back there and you start doing this, hey, that's a bad place to be. So that gate, so this way when the air enters this passage, this column place, this stream place, okay, you're controlling the same flow. Everybody understand that? Does it make sense? It's that same flow that you just practiced with the lead pipe that you've learned to regulate to support more because you have less air. You always support more. And of course there's combinations and permutations of this. This is the basic. This is the basic. This is not practicing. I'm giving you the building blocks. So basically, when you get that breath right, so if it's, let's just pick a number. It's going 30 pounds per square inch or something. I don't know what it's doing. All right? So you raise your tongue a certain amount, and it's going to go 40. And maybe that's a certain note that you're trying to attain, or 50, or something else. Okay? And you lower it, and it's going to go less pounds per square inch. And then you're going to hit those partials that these horns are built to play. All 7 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. You have 1 mouthpiece, 1 bell, and 7 trumpets. And they all have to be able to be played with the same breath. So you have to have something that has the same resonance to it. See? Otherwise you're going to have all kinds of problems when you move the valves. Yeah. So basically, that's what I'm doing when I'm practicing exercises. Now when I have my students practice, once they're kind of done their warm-up, developmental period. I don't even call it a warm-up. I hate the word warm-up. I don't like it. It implies what? Almost like mindless thought. I'm warming up. No, it's a developmental time. It's warming up, but it's development. You're getting the mind to work with the instrument, to be expressive, technical and musical, technical and musical. Okay? So basically, all the exercises that I have my students play are an octave and a half. If you do them wrong, they sound real bad. So that way you sound bad all the time. I guess people get depressed, but then hopefully they'll get excited about changing. If you give people things that they can do without playing correctly, how do they get better? They just get a better sound on something that isn't working? Possibly, you know? They have the same range problems that they've had for 10 years? Possibly. See what I mean? Anybody have any questions about that? Does it make sense to you? Yeah.
How important is the ear in this? Because when you're talking about changing pounds per square inch and all these different
Yeah, well, I'm only using that as an example. Don't be thinking about any pounds and junk like that.
Exactly.
That's just a you know, just to give you a sensation feeling. You know, when you drop your jaw, see when we did that with the three notes? So it's see, I'm not changing the way I'm still supporting that single lead pipe thing. The single lead pipe thing. Okay? So you're not really thinking about it. That was just an example. But you know, you really it's pretty simple stuff.
Right.
What's the next note after that? Now, you know what? I have a lot of students that can do that. I know Greg does too. And I had a student, she's in Mexico now, and she's a sociology and Spanish major. And she's been there 2 years. She plays in 3 orchestras and 2 Mexican bands. Okay? And she can play high Gs. This girl, she's amazing. But she always could. Because I just said, well, just try this exercise. You know, and she did it. She could play high Gs like the very first time she tried to do it. You know her, Carrie Howard. Carrie Howard, yeah. And she goes in this band, you know, and she goes in Mexico. You know, it's pretty tough there. It'd be a female trumpet player in Mexican, like, Latin band. It's rough, yeah. But she goes in there, man, and she just plays these parts. And all these people go nuts. They go absolutely crazy. Because she said, you know, that's pretty easy to do that. I said, yeah, I know. But she's a person who doesn't have any inhibitions about doing anything. She's fearless, totally fearless. You know, you can tell her, you play this mouthpiece with the spikes on it. Okay. And you know what? She'll find a way to do it, and it'll work for her, because she's that type of a person. So you've got to be this fearless person when you practice. You can't only be fearless in your lessons when somebody's there helping you. You have to be fearless, unafraid to fail. And those are the people, talk about failure. There's Mark Wood now. Thanks for calling during my master class, Mark. Yeah. Should have looked at the schedule. All right. Does anybody have any questions about that? Really, different, you know, some different ideas about it. I don't want you to believe. Now, the thing that's great about this, whatever your teacher has told you goes with this. This is not exclusionary material. This is inclusive material. This is material that I had to come up with to make myself understand what everybody else was talking about. Because I come from a place where they spoke no language about trumpet. Okay? It was you put it up there and you play it. And that was it. And I didn't know anything. And I still think that that's probably the case. But you know what I'm saying? It's a great trip. I'm going to tell you one more thing, and then maybe I get a chance to, nope, no, I get a chance to hear anybody play. Maybe you, quick. But there's nothing more enjoyable than learning. Learning is a lifetime process. We hear that all the time, lifetime learners, you know. That is so true. Learning for me has been the most important part of what I do. I don't think it's necessarily the trumpet part of it. I think it's just the engagement of your mind, your ability to be fearless and never tired of, never bothered by failure. You know, I can't tell you, there's at least, I couldn't even, maybe I can't even count the number of times I fail in a year. I probably can't. But I don't let that bother me. You know, I don't let they're all minor failures compared to playing a lifetime. And that's, you can't let those things bother you and stop you from going forward. I get up the next day and it's a new day. It's not yesterday. It's not yesterday. Yesterday is history, for sure. Tomorrow's not important because it's not here yet. Today. So I might think other ways about other parts of my life, but I'm very existential when it comes to trumpet. Tomorrow's not important. Yesterday's not important. What I'm doing right now is important. And I'll take that and I'll go on to tomorrow and it'll be a fresh start. With the knowledge, the objective practice knowledge that you have and the wonderful advice that you get from your teachers. If you're lucky enough to have a teacher, you should really pay attention to what they say. They know what they're talking about. Even if it sounds like they're saying the opposite of what I'm saying. They're not. I know most of the teachers, all the ones in this room, and in almost every state and a lot of countries. And they don't think that way. I'm going to read you a short list of things. And I'll even remember to put my tuning slide in this time. That's always a good thing. And I'm going to read this short list of things for you because I think they're important. And they have to do with learning. And if I can find them, my book needs a table of contents. Here it is. It's called Things to Do. All right? And it's nothing major. But I was teaching a class in Greece a few years back, not the most recent one, but the one before that. And they said, you have to speak at the final diploma ceremony. I said, I have to speak? You didn't tell me that. This is like 3 minutes before we had to do it. It's very Greek. It's a very Greek thing. You know, when are we going to eat? Soon. Okay. And I love Greece. I go there at least twice a year, every year, because it's one of my favorite places in the world. At the end of this class, so I got a napkin, and I wrote down a bunch of stuff. And of course, Britt Toyer from East Carolina University wrote down every word, because he writes down every word that any person says and studies it, and he improves because of it. And of course, when I finished doing this, people were sending me emails asking me for this list, and of course I took it and threw it away, you know. And so I said, but I know where I can get it. So I got in touch with, I got in touch with Britt, and Britt said, oh yeah, I wrote that all down, I'll send it to you. And a minute later, it was already there because he had already written it out, you know. So this is the list. And these are things that I think are important about learning. And they have to do with trumpet, I guess, too. When you do anything, first of all, consider what you've done. What have I learned? You know, think about it as a large unit. What am I going to do that's different because I learned this? That's important, okay? What am I going to do next? So you haven't played a trumpet yet, have you? Yeah, so don't play. Think before you play. What are you going to do? First of all, the most important thing is be considerate. Being considerate is very important. Why? Because it puts people at ease. That's including the teacher and the student. You can always know when somebody's being really considerate, don't you? You can feel it. So make an effort towards your teacher. Some teachers are very reserved, aren't they? Matter of fact, you're not even sure what they're thinking half the time. And it's the same of you as a student. You have to be expressive in your lessons. And consideration with that. Be progressive. We've talked about that just about every minute that we've talked today. Be respectful of when people think differently than you or have a different idea about a piece or anything. That's fine. That's what music is all about. That's the important part of music. If there was only one good Haydn trumpet concerto, we wouldn't allow people to record it except that one person. Believe your teacher and other teachers. That's why we're here. We're not only here to compete, we're here to learn and change and grow. Try something new every day. That's part of being fearless. Say, I'm going to tongue this way. That Martino guy, he was talking about this tongue stuff. I'm going to try that. Okay? Listen and then practice. It's so, you would be so surprised to know how far off my model is sometimes. When I go back and listen, sometimes I'm too lazy to listen first. And I say, man, I don't know. Go back and listen. Oh, that's why. If I would have done that first, I wouldn't have wasted all that time. I would have been already going that direction. Okay? Be an asset to your community. Boy, that's really important. That is the most important thing that I do. I try to be. I try to be an asset to my community. Play in the town band. I play in the town band. Matter of fact, when I go to the supermarket, they don't know that I'm doing stuff like this. They don't know that I do courses in Greece and I travel all over the world playing trumpet, and I'm lucky enough to do that. They say, I know you. You're that guy that plays the solos in the park band. I said, that's me, because that's what I do. That is the most valuable thing that I do when you think about it. I have become part of a community, and I'm doing something that has true value in a real world situation, right? Doesn't matter if you're playing in the Kennedy Center or if you're playing in Danville, Kentucky in the park. You have the opportunity to play just as well. Okay? Enjoy music every day. Boy, that's really important. It's not a job. It's something that you enjoy. I have never worked a day in my life. Eric will tell you that. He knows that. Yeah. I don't work. I just get tired at the end of the day. You know, hope I can make it home the 40 miles I have to drive back to Danville from UK. And, you know, sometimes I pull over and I'm tired, you know, but I'm only tired from doing things I want to do. It's a wonderful life. Be curious. We mentioned that at the beginning. Be disciplined. Those are the two really, really important ones. Be friendly. You'd be surprised how easy it is to create a hostile environment. You all know, you've all experienced that. Don't be part of it. When I experience a hostile environment, I become more friendly. I just kill people with kindness if I can, unless they just completely shut you out. You know, and you know that you've tried your best to make the environment that you're part of a better one. Okay? Be happy. Don't let things bother you. Don't let the little stuff, you know, they always say don't sweat the small stuff. That's be happy. Don't worry about it, you know. I can't even tell you, I was on the hospital tour of America this year, trust me, with friends and family that were sick, and, you know, and whether I play the trumpet well, I'd give it all up if I could make people healthy and feel better. You know, it would be wonderful. Be positive with yourself and with others. They're trying their best. I believe everyone's trying their best to do a good job at something. And maybe that's a real optimistic view, but that's the one I want to keep. I want to keep that optimistic view, and I'm going to help those people as much as I can to be successful. Adapt. Don't be rigid in how you do things, whether that's playing, practicing. Somebody's 5 minutes late, somebody's 5 minutes early. You know, they made me play this faster. They made me play this slower. I practice it slower and faster. When we played that piece yesterday, that was a lot faster than we had done it. That was faster. I know, because my fingers were telling me. Man, that was fast, even for F major, you know? But, you know, so I wasn't worried about it because I'd already adapted before I was asked to. I practiced faster. I practiced slower. When I do the Aratunian, you know, oh, you know the Aratunian, don't you? You don't have to practice the Aratunian. Oh, yeah. When you go in and they go, that's about 160 something, all right? And then the other band goes, you got to be ready for that. You're going to stop and say, oh, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, wait, we have to start over again. No. you're going to get stuck with it. And if that's the speed that group is practicing at, trust me, that's the speed they're going to go. Unless it's the Marine band or the Navy band or the Army band or something like that, it's not going to happen. They're going to do it at that speed, so you better be prepared. And so adapt. And that includes with people. Be able to adapt yourself to be able to make people feel comfortable once again. And of course, the most important one is be humble. A lot of us have a lot of success with what we do with the trumpet, with sports, writing, any kind of thing. I mean, some of my students write the most beautiful poetry and stuff, you know. I'm just amazed. When I was at Center, they were all different majors and stuff, and they'd come in with their work, and they're finding cures for AIDS, and they're just fantastic people, and most of them are so, so humble about this important work they're doing. You know, you have to remember that when we play, what about all those people who are out there working on a cure for cancer and are doing all these wonderful things? Nobody sees them, do they? You don't really see those people. But they build buildings for us, put chairs in them, and then they make a stage, and we stand there, and people get to see us do what we do. You should be really humble about that. That is a really humbling thing when you think about all the important things that people do behind closed doors. You know? It's great. And you know, as a closing statement, isn't it wonderful that we get to do these things and nobody dies? So you don't have to worry about your playing. I mean, if I was a doctor and I was operating on somebody, man, you have to have a great personality and a great kind of a ability to be able to do that. You know, if I miss 5 notes, the great thing is nobody's going to get sick or die. I mean, so I don't get too worked up about it, you know. But a lot of you get so worked up about it, it's almost as if somebody's going to die if you don't hit the right notes. Maybe it'll be you, because you're so worried about it. So what's the thing? Don't worry, be happy? Really, that's the truth. That's the most true statement in the most simplistic form that I can tell you. Anybody have any last questions? Then we have to stop because we're a little over time. Well, listen, thank you so much for this opportunity. Thank you.